Every trader has done it. Crafted a perfectly reasonable explanation for a trade that had no real edge. You tell yourself it made sense. You point to the news, the structure, the divergence on your chart. But deep down, something in you knows it wasn't a signal. It was FOMO wearing a suit and tie, dressed up as logic. The story felt convincing because it made your discomfort smaller. You needed to act, and the mind built a reason fast enough to justify it. The truth is, logic becomes the mask we wear when emotion wants control. And in trading, emotion dressed as logic is far more dangerous than emotion in its raw form, because it feels rational while quietly dismantling discipline. The problem isn't the story, it's how quickly we believe it. When the market starts moving without us, the need for certainty kicks in. So we invent reasons to chase. Reasons that sound analytical but are really emotional. The market's overextended. Volume's drying up. It has to pull back soon. Every phrase has the same goal: to make inaction feel unbearable. The mind can't stand missing opportunity, so it manufactures logic to create permission. But the more convincing the logic sounds, the more detached we become from our actual edge. The market doesn't punish emotion, it punishes inconsistency. And when your reasons shift with every flicker of price, you're trading belief, not structure. Real logic is quiet. It doesn't shout, and it doesn't need to convince you. It doesn't care about comfort or missing out. It simply waits for conditions to align. When you have edge, you don't argue with yourself. The setup is either valid or it isn't. There's no gray area. The false logic of FOMO lives in that gray. The almost, the maybe, the just this once trades. It's the mind's way of trying to bridge the gap between patience and impulse. But that bridge always collapses under pressure. Because real structure isn't flexible, and neither is real discipline. That negotiation inside your head, the one that sounds calm and rational, is actually the moment FOMO wins. It erodes your standards one compromise at a time. Every almost good enough trade builds a tolerance for bending your rules. Every rule bent lowers your threshold for discipline. Eventually, you start confusing movement for opportunity and momentum for edge. The market becomes a mirror for your anxiety instead of your preparation. The danger isn't that you lose trades. It's that you start losing awareness of when you've drifted from your process entirely. True edge never needs to be explained. It doesn't require storytelling. It's clean, mechanical, tested, and emotionless in its application. If you find yourself talking yourself into or out of a trade, that's your signal you've already left the domain of edge. You've stepped into the realm of emotion disguised as reason. That's the moment to pause, not to think harder, but to think less. Because the harder you think, the more you rationalize. The more you rationalize, the further you drift. And when you drift, the market doesn't need to beat you. You beat yourself before the trade even triggers. There's a rare kind of freedom that comes from not needing to explain your trades, not to yourself, not to others. You either have the setup or you don't. You act when your structure says go, and you wait when it doesn't. Simplicity is where mastery hides. The trader who can remain simple when their mind screams for complexity is the one who endures. That calm is not indifference. It's strength. Because the longer you stay disciplined in simplicity, the clearer you see how little control emotion actually deserves over your craft. The most consistent traders in the world don't have stronger analysis. They have stronger boundaries. They know the sound of emotional logic and cut it off before it spreads. They don't fight it with willpower. They observe it, label it, and move on. To them, FOMO isn't an enemy. It's a signal that something internal needs recentering. It's a reminder that discipline is not a one-time choice, but a daily practice of realignment. The real growth comes not from avoiding FOMO entirely, but from recognizing its disguise sooner each time. So the next time you hear yourself explaining a trade, listen closely. Not to the story, but to the energy behind it. Is it calm or is it anxious? Is it grounded in process or driven by discomfort? That's where the truth lies. The chart might look the same, but your state determines your edge. When you can spot the difference between real logic and emotional logic, you start playing a completely different game, one that most traders never reach. Because the real edge isn't in your setup, it's in your self-awareness.